is the frame that we're going to use to build up and construct our sentence talking about the past in Spanish. Wherever you go a question they're asking you to use the past tense in Spanish, you can use this frame to kind of build up your sentence and your paragraphs. Now, as you can see, we got 5 columns in this frame. We got at the beginning the handle verb, the most important part of the sentence, the handle verb in the past, the verb that is going to help you to use the past straight away. So this is the most important part of the sentence. Also, it's really important the second part of the sentence, this column, the verb, and the pattern is that this verb needs to end in R or in ME, but I will explain that later. Then we got when you do the activity or when you did this particular past action. Then you can express why you did it, so because, and then the justification, basically the reason, using S with an adjective or you basically using an opinion. And at the bottom, as you can see, you got different ways to say also, so you can start again the sentence and don't stop enough like a full stop. You can use also and connect that to a new sentence using the past. Okay, we got 5 handle verbs that we can use with any past expression. We go fui a, I went to. Fui a, I went to. Then it's really interesting because if you add mos to fui, so fuimos a means we went. So mos is the pattern for we in Spanish. So you can either say fui a or fuimos a. Second handle verb is decidí, I decided, and concentrate as well in that action there. That little dot is compulsory. You need to put it, okay? To make sure that you're using the past correctly. Decidí, and also remember the pattern of we. You can add mos to decidí, decidimos, and that means we decided. We decided to do something. Then we've got a new one, which is me animé a. Me animé a. I was in the mood, or I was up to do something, okay? So me animé a, really interesting as well, and remember that dot and on the E, okay? Me animé a. Then we go pude, I managed, or I was able to do something, pude. And one of my favorite ones, tuve la suerte de, I was lucky to do something. Now, after this, what you need to do is you need to use a verb ending in R. It could be AR, ER, or IR, but actually the pattern is R. So, tomar el sol, sunbathe, if the topic is about holidays, for example. Alquilar una bici, as you can see, the end in R, to rent a bike. Or it could be as well ending in ME. They're called reflexive verbs, and you need to add ME to the R. So, relajarme means to relax yourself. So, you can say, decidí relajarme. Okay. I got another video with all these handle verbs in the channel, so you can have a look at that video if you want. But these 2 columns are the most important part of the frame. And as you can see, they're at the beginning. So you are actually using the past tense straight away. Then we can jump into the next column, which is when. You can express like a past expression with ayer, yesterday, el pasado verano, la sama, la pasada semana, last week, or en el pasado, in the past. And don't forget, you can use different ways to say because in Spanish, por qué, ya que, puesto que, debido a que, or a causa de que, and actually all means the same, because. So you can actually use a variety of expressions to justify your actions. And then you go to options. You can use an adjective using S, divertido, gracioso, guay, flipante. It's up to you. Try to choose the adjective that best describe your action. But also, you can use after because an opinion. And remember, don't use S. As you can see, S is for an adjective. In here, you don't need to use S, okay? Because it's a common mistake. So you can say, because I love it. Porque me flipa, okay? Or because it is worth it. Porque vale la pena, okay? So always use an opinion to justify the reasons after. At the bottom, you can see in here different ways to say also in Spanish. Además, también, o asimismo. So you can start your sentence and use another handle verb to express your past activities. Now, this the most important part of this frame is you can adapt it to different topics depending of what you've been asked in the exams. For example, in here, we're talking about holidays because the verbs are, these verbs are related to the holidays topic. But imagine they ask you about school. Jugar en el patio. So you can say, I decided to play in the playground. O aprender español, as you can see, ends in R as well. I was in the mood to learn Spanish. Me animé a aprender español. O leer en la biblioteca. Pude leer en la biblioteca. I managed to read in the library. For example, we're using the topic of the environment. What do you do last week, for example, to help the environment? As you can see, I'm using verbs related to the topic of global issues. Reciclar basura, to recycle rubbish, ahorrar agua, to save water, o montar en bici, to ride your bike. So always adapt the verb to the topic that you've been asked. Right. So we're going here a great example of a bullet point that you might be asked to develop in your writing on your speaking assessment. ¿Qué hiciste en tus pasadas vacaciones? Now, in here, the first thing we need to know and we need to find out is if the bullet point is asking you the present, the past, the future, or opinions. Now, how do you know that this bullet point is talking about the past? Well, very easy. Iste. Iste is one of the patterns for the past tense in Spanish. What do you do? Iste. It could be as well haste for AR verbs, for example. Jugaste. ¿Qué jugaste? What do you play, for example? And then as well we go pasadas vacaciones. So we know that this is the past. Now, what we need to do is we need to use the frame. As you can see, I got the frame in here that we're going to use. Now, we know that this is in the past, and now what we have to do is we have to try to rephrase something from this bullet point. We can rephrase en tus pasadas vacaciones. But remember, tus, we need to change that instead, okay? So we can actually rephrase. So we're going to start en mis. So we, en mis pasadas. En mis pasadas vacaciones. As you can see, en mis pasadas vacaciones, I changed tus to mis, so I can actually use that in my sentence. Now what we need to do is we need to use the frame to start writing our past expressions. And the first thing we have to do is think in verbs related to the topic of holidays, because we're talking about vacaciones. As you can see in here, I got some verbs that I can use in my frame. Tomar el sol, sunbathing, comer en un restaurante, o relajarme, to relax myself. And as you can see, the ends in R, O, and ME. And now what I need to do is I start to using the frame. So I'm going to start using, for example, decidí, tomar el sol. So I'm going to use the first verb, tomar el sol. And as you can see, really important, the verb ends in R. Okay? And now what we're going to do is I'm going to express why. I'm going to give a reason. I'm going to use a causa de que. That is the fourth column, a causa de que, because you can say because you love it. Me fui. After that, remember, you can still use also to start a new sentence. Además, también, o asimismo. In that case, I'm going to write down a new sentence. Además. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another handle verb from the beginning of the frame. In that case, I'm going to use tuve la suerte de. I was lucky too. So I'm going to write down tuve la suerte de. And now I'm going to use another verb that I jot down at the beginning of my activity. Relajarme, for example. So I was lucky to relax. Relajarme. And now I can say as well why. And you can see that you can use another expression instead of a causa de que. For example, debido a que. And then you can say it was worth it. Vale la pena. And you can write down vale la pena. As you can see in here, you just write down at least 30 words and you're actually communicating the past with decidí, because you're using decidí, and tuve la suerte de. Tuve la suerte de. And as you can see, after all two expressions, two handle verbs, you use the verb ending in R, like tomar el sol, o relajarme, ending in me, if it's a reflex. I ask you about ¿qué hiciste en tu instituto ayer? ¿Qué hiciste en tu instituto ayer? Now, instituto is a school, and hiciste, again, remember the pattern for the past. Is what do you do in your school yesterday? So obviously you need to think in verbs related to the topic of the school. Verbs. Aprender idiomas, to learn languages, leer en la biblioteca, to read in the library, o jugar en el patio, to play in the playground. You can rephrase en tu instituto. So instead of tu, you need to write down mi, and then you can use en mi instituto. As you can see, I'm using mi instead of tu, so en mi instituto, and then you can start using the frame again and choosing one of these handle verbs plus one of these verbs that we copy. In this case, I'm going to use me animé a aprender idiomas. And then you can say, why do you actually were in the mood to learn languages? Importante para mí. And again, this is a basic sentence using the past tense. And then remember what you can do is use again además o también and choose another handle verb and one of these verbs like jugar en el patio o leer en la biblioteca. Always adapt the frame to the topic that